our virtual environment would be our VM VirtualBox. I say yes, and that is loaded. We already prepared our server and our client for our domain. Remember? Do you remember the name we called our domain controller? Do you remember the name we called our domain controller?
DC5.
Yes.
DC5. So I start DC5. So we also created a client, right? Do you remember?
Client 1.
Call the client 1. So we take client 1 and we start that computer. The two computers, the two machines that we have on our domain are getting started right now. All right, so at this stage, begin to watch your language, begin to use the right terms. So I'm taking it slowly so that it syncs. So I have both machines loading. How do I know this is my server? DC5. So I recognize that by the name DC5, domain controller 5, and client 1. All right. Server is loading, client is loading. Both client and server form our domain controller. So when you say, I'm trying to get my client server to work, I don't know what you're talking about. If you are referring to server, call it server. If you are referring to domain controller, call it domain controller. If you are referring to client, call it client. It's the network that these virtual machines form together. It's that kind of network that is called client-server network, or more generally accepted name would be the domain. All right, so how do I log in here? Remember, input, keyboard, control or delete. Why don't I just press control or delete on my system, on my keyboard, instead of going through that route? If I do, it will control my host computer, not my virtual machine. Yeah, this is revision for some people, but people are just learning this. So I'll say my password. Do I remember my password for this machine? I think I do. All right, so I sign in by pressing enter. That's for the domain controller. For the client, I go to input, control or delete, and I do password. All right, my client is loading as well. Any questions so far?
I just need a clarification because today is my first day anyway. So I went through the first video, which was which shows how to install a virtual box and load the OS on the virtual box. Then what I want to ask, this continuation, the second and third video has where you do the configuration of the client and the domain controller. It has it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So watch the second and third video, and then you'll be up to date and be able to follow what we're doing here.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. So we have our server loaded, our domain controller. And then, of course, by the way, what's the difference between a server and domain controller? All right, so we have our domain controller. What we are doing today is we already have a domain. We have set up our client-server network, like I told you. As a network person, you have completed your work, your infrastructure is ready. So what we want to begin to do today is administer our network. In other words, we are starting network administration today. Network administration. Yeah. That's the way you understand it. All right. Virtual background. Put that there. All right. So we're starting network administration today. To do network administration, you administer your network from the server, not from the client. So this is our server. Do you see our server?
Yes.
All right. So let's go. You have just been employed in this company, and the simplest form of work your IT manager can ever give you is to say, Team Ike, Jim Ike, Team Ike, this is our new staff. His name is Abaton. Please go ahead and create an account for him on our domain so he can have access to our network resources. That's the simplest form of work. All right, you say yes, sir, and then you don't have to go with Abaton. You just get basic details about was that Abaton or Team Ike? So you get basic details about the new staff, and then you go to your domain controller, and then this is what you do. you go to tools. All right, so you go to tools and you take Active Directory users and computers. Active Directory users and computers. And then you click that, and here you see Active Directory users and computers and all the stuff therein. What you want to do, of course, take a closer look, click them one by one to understand what they mean. But essentially what I'm showing you here is users. And then you see that there are already inbuilt users. They came with the system. You did not create any of these users. They are just there. They came with the system. Again, click them one by one and try to understand what these users do. Domain users, domain guests, domain controllers, what do they do? Apparently not just users, active objects generally. By objects, we mean both users, not just users, computers, and services on the network. They are all referred to as objects. All right, let me not digress too much. So we'll come back to users, we'll right click and we see new. New what? New user. And then what's the name of this new staff that we are creating account for? What was the name? I forgot. Okay, don't worry, let me use my name. So I say my surname, Aregbesola. I don't have initials, Akin. And then I say full name, Akin Aregbesola. What will be my username? My username on this domain, on this client server network would be Akin, if that's the policy. If the policy of the company is use the first letter of the surname and then the first name. Usually that's how it goes. And then you click next. And your password, let my password be anything like daily 2020 hash. And then I say daily 2020 hash. And then I say user must change password at next logon. I say click, finish. Now I have created account for that new staff daily. And if I click through users, if I scroll through and I look through, I'm going to find some account there called daily that I just created. What is it?
We created Aregbesola.
All right, sorry. I created Akin, sorry. All right, so let's look for Akin. So I have, yes, you are right. I created Akin Aregbesola and the username for that account. Could you help me write that down so I don't forget? All right, so that is what is it again? Aregbesola. So that's my user account. All right, so before I attempt to manage my account in details, let me first of all go to my client machine from my office and log in as this new staff.